The world never stops asking for your attention and your emotional energy. It can feel like a constant storm you are trying to weather. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius faced his own relentless challenges, from political complexities to the difficulties of leading during conflict. In his private writings, he offered a simple line to steady himself. He observed that the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. This is the ancient practice of equanimity, and it is not about feeling nothing. It is the skill of building an unshakable calm from within, no matter what swirls outside. By the end of our time together, you will have a complete set of timeless principles and thoughtful exercises to help construct that resilient, calm mind for yourself. We will discover how to transform daily frustrations into opportunities for growth and explore why a genuine sense of peace is built independently from your circumstances. What does a truly calm mind look like to you when you try to picture it? The first rule for a calm mind is understanding what is truly yours to command. A Stoic teacher named Epictetus, born into a life of hardship, framed this as the single most important distinction we can make. He taught that some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are our own judgments, our intentions, our desires, and our actions. Everything else, from the weather to the opinions of others to the unfolding of world events, lies outside that circle of direct control. This is not a pessimistic one into a simple category. Was its core element something within your direct control, like your effort or your attitude? Or was it something outside of it, like another person's decision or a delay you could not prevent? This simple act of categorization is the first practical step in easing anxiety and beginning the real work of constructing a calm mind. What if you could watch your anxious thoughts like clouds passing in the sky instead of being caught in the downpour? This is the second cornerstone of a calm mind, a practice the Stoics called Prosochē, or vigilant attention. It is the art of creating a small but powerful space between a stimulus and your reaction, a moment of clarity where you can observe your own thinking from a slight distance. The Stoics viewed every initial mental event not as a command but as an impression. An impression is simply a suggestion from your senses or your mind, a notification that something appears to be good or bad. The key to equanimity lies in learning to examine that notification before you accept it as truth. Marcus Aurelius constantly practiced this in his private writings. He reminded himself that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In another passage, he instructs himself to always define or describe the impression that has made an impact on you, so you can see it for what it is, stripped of the dramatic story you have attached to it. This is cognitive distancing, and it is the ancient root of many modern mindfulness techniques. It is not about suppressing a feeling, but about changing your relationship to it. You are not your thoughts, you are the observer who can choose which thoughts to engage with. Here is a simple way to practice this today. When a wave of worry about the future arises, instead of being swept into planning for every possible scenario, pause and mentally label it. You might say to yourself, this is an impression of future concern, or more simply, this is just a thought. That small act of naming it creates that critical space. It transforms the worry from a looming fact into a mental object you can look at. You acknowledge its presence without letting it dictate your inner state. The emotional charge often softens because you have stopped fueling the story with unquestioning belief. Think of one recurring thought pattern that tends to unsettle your peace. Perhaps it is a concern about not measuring up or a persistent reaction to a daily inconvenience. For a moment, consider what it would mean to see that not as a truth about the world, but as a passing impression, a cloud in the sky of your mind. It may return, but you do not have to build a house under it. This practice of observation is how you begin to clean the lens of your perception, ensuring your soul is dyed with the colors of clarity and choice, rather than the hues of automatic reaction. Seneca received the news of his exile while at the height of his influence in Rome. The philosopher and statesman was ordered to leave for Corsica, a remote island, far from his position and familiar comforts. He wrote of the initial sting, the feeling of disorientation, but then he made a profound pivot. In his letters, he began to treat this time not as a punishment, but as an opportunity. He saw it as a chance to deepen his studies, to strengthen his self-reliance, and to practice the very philosophy he taught. This is the radical heart of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is the principle that transforms equanimity from passive acceptance into active engagement with every single event life delivers. The German thinker Friedrich Nietzsche later captured it perfectly, writing that for greatness in a person, one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. This is not about pretending hardship feels pleasant. It is about recognizing that fate, in this sense, is not a blind force. It is simply the raw material of your existence, the unedited script of your life. Equanimity here means developing a deep trust in the process, believing that every piece of that material, especially the rough and jagged ones, is necessary for building the person you are meant to become. Epictetus instructed his students to approach life like an athlete, saying we should not seek for things to happen only as we wish, but rather wish that what happens happens as it does. Marcus Aurelius put it in terms of fire, noting that an obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. To practice this is to reframe your relationship with daily life. Consider a minor frustration like being stuck in unexpected traffic. The typical reaction is resistance and irritation, a mental fight against reality. Amor Fati asks a different question. How can this specific situation serve my growth? Perhaps it is an enforced pause, a chance to listen to an inspiring podcast you have saved, or simply a few minutes of quiet observation you would not have otherwise taken. It is fuel for practicing patience, a virtue that only grows when tested. A mistake in your work is not just a setback, it is the precise lesson you needed to improve a process or deepen your expertise. The event itself is neutral. Your power lies in choosing to value it for the strength and insight it invites you to develop. Look back over the past week. What is one event you initially resisted that felt like an interruption? In hindsight, can you see a thread of value in it? Perhaps it revealed a hidden assumption, taught you a new limit, or redirected your energy to something more meaningful. That retrospective glance is the beginning of training your mind to see with the eyes of Amor Fati in the present moment, to not just navigate what happens, but to embrace it as an essential and welcome part of your story. Marcus Aurelius would often look up at the night sky from his military camp on the Danube frontier. In those moments, he practiced a mental exercise of breathtaking scale, deliberately shrinking his imperial burdens under the canopy of stars. He wrote to himself frequently about the view from above. This is not an escape from reality, but a profound recalibration of it. By expanding your perspective to the cosmic scale, you actively shrink the emotional weight of daily troubles, not by denying them, but by seeing them in their true proportion. Your urgent conflict, your pressing worry, becomes a single thread in the vast and ancient tapestry of human experience. This practice directly combats the self-absorption that anxiety thrives on, replacing it with a humbling and deeply calming sense of context. Begin by mentally zooming out from wherever you are right now. See your room or your immediate surroundings. Now pull back further in your mind's eye to view your entire city or town from above, with all its moving lights and lives. Pull back further to see your continent, then the whole earth, a beautiful blue marble hanging in the quiet darkness. Now see our solar system, our galaxy among billions of others, in a universe unimaginably old and vast. In this cosmic snapshot, your current concern, no matter how real and pressing it feels, occupies a vanishingly small point in space and time. Marcus Aurelius anchored himself with thoughts like this. He reflected on how all the bustling activity of the Roman Forum was just the agitation of ants on a little mound, and how the most celebrated names in history are now just faint whispers. He reminded himself that the longest human life is but a pinpoint in the infinite stretch of eternity. You can apply this to any social friction or career anxiety you carry today. Take that specific situation and imagine observing it from 1 year in the future. How much will its details matter then? Now pull the perspective back to 10 years or even 50. From that distant vantage point, the sharp edges of the present moment are softened, revealing what truly endures, often the lesson learned or the strength gained, not the temporary sting. The goal is not to make your life feel insignificant, but to liberate you from the tyranny of the immediate. It creates space for a quieter, more resilient response. Try this cosmic snapshot exercise the next time a worry feels overwhelming. Pause, and for just 1 minute, picture the entire scene of your concern. Then, in your mind, place that entire scene as a tiny, silent dot on the surface of our planet, which itself is a speck drifting in the silent expanse of the cosmos. Breathe while holding that image. This is the view from above. It does not solve the practical problem, but it solves the problem of perspective, allowing you to address your life from a place of composed clarity rather than frantic attachment. Your calm mind is not built by ignoring the world, but by understanding your true and strangely peaceful place within it. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius with a surprising prescription for peace of mind. He advised him to spend a few days each month living in the most frugal way, wearing his simplest clothes and eating only the plainest bread. This was not a punishment, but a form of mental training. He called it a Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges. At first glance, this sounds like inviting anxiety, but the Stoics saw it as the exact opposite. It is a preparation for the soul. By deliberately and calmly considering potential changes, setbacks, or difficulties, you strengthen your mind against the sudden shock of worry when life inevitably brings its tests. This practice does not dwell on hardship. It systematically dismantles the power of the unknown by making the unthinkable thinkable. The core insight is that we often struggle more in imagination than in reality. The vague, shadowy concern about a career shift, facing a personal test, or navigating a complex conversation frequently causes greater distress than the actual event would. Our minds, left to their own devices, spin intense stories filled with emotion and few facts. This practice brings those shadows into the light of reason. Seneca encouraged his friend to regularly reflect on the possibility of a major life change, limited means, or a personal trial, not to despair but to realize a profound truth. He wrote that we are often more frightened than hurt, and we experience more from our worries than from the circumstances we anticipate. By facing the idea calmly, you discover that your core self, your capacity for reason and character, remains intact. You see that you would still be you, and that you could still choose to act with dignity. Here is how to apply this with wisdom, not worry. Choose a mild, specific consideration for the coming week. Perhaps it is the possibility of a professional redirection or the need to have a meaningful conversation with a family member. Do not dwell on the emotional weight. Instead, set aside a few quiet minutes to calmly walk through the scenario in your mind. Visualize the event unfolding. See yourself receiving the unexpected news or initiating the discussion. Now, crucially, focus not on the external event but on your internal response. How would your calmest, most principled self handle this? What strengths would you call upon? Perhaps it would be patience, courage, or compassion. Mentally rehearse maintaining your character, your reason, and your humanity throughout. You are not practicing for the worst, you are practicing your best response to a difficult moment. This exercise reveals that the true object of your preparation is not the external event, which you may never control, but your own inner foundation, which you always can. By repeatedly visiting these possibilities in a state of composure, you build a deep, non-verbal confidence. You teach your nervous system that you can face uncertainty without being overwhelmed by it. The concern loses its sharpness because you have already met it on your own terms, in the safety of your mind, and you have seen that you possess the resources to navigate and to choose well. So this week, select one small apprehension, invite it in for a calm conversation, and discover the steady strength that waits on the other side of that courageous look. The most radical promise of a calm mind is that peace does not depend on what you achieve, but on who you become. This is the Stoic axiom that redefines success itself, placing true good and bad solely within the realm of our character and our choices, in what they called virtue and vice. Wealth, reputation, health, and all external outcomes were classified as preferred or dispreferred, but never as inherently good or bad. Your tranquility, therefore, becomes unshakable when it is rooted in an unwavering commitment to four cardinal qualities: wisdom to see reality clearly, courage to act rightly despite fear, justice in your dealings with others, and temperance in your desires. Seneca argued this point directly in his work on the happy life, stating that a happy life is one that is in harmony with its own nature, and it can only be achieved if the mind is sound and in perfect possession of its reasoning power. For the Stoics, virtue is not just a part of happiness, it is completely sufficient for it. Imagine two contrasting scenarios. In the first, a person works diligently on a project, acts with integrity and full effort, but the project ultimately does not achieve the hoped-for result. In the second, another person achieves a spectacular result, but does so through cutting corners, misleading others, or compromising their own principles. From a conventional standpoint, the second person appears more successful. From the Stoic view, the first person has cultivated true good, a calm conscience, and an honorable character, while the second has cultivated internal conflict and vice, regardless of the external trophy they hold. The peace of mind available to each is fundamentally different. One rests on a foundation they control completely, their own choices. The other's sense of worth is connected to an unstable world of opinion and chance. When you internalize this, daily turbulence loses its power to define you. A financial shift is a challenge to practice wisdom and courage, not a verdict on your worth. Feedback becomes an invitation to examine your justice and temperance, not an attack on your core self. Your equanimity is built on the bedrock of your character, a project that is entirely and always yours to manage. Reflect for a moment on your own experience. Can you recall a time when you consciously prioritized acting with integrity, telling a difficult truth, or showing kindness, even when it seemed to work against a desired external result? How did choosing the right action over the convenient result ultimately affect your sense of inner peace in the hours or days that followed? That quiet affirmation is the sound of a calm mind being built, one virtuous choice at a time. A profound shift occurs when you stop demanding the world conform to your personal preferences. This is the discipline of desire, the inner work of aligning your deepest wants with what is actually within your power. So much of our modern discontent, that low hum of dissatisfaction, comes from quietly insisting that life must deliver a specific script. We hope for a particular outcome at work, a certain reaction from a friend, a smooth execution of our plans. When reality inevitably takes its own course, we can feel unsettled or disappointed. The Stoics saw this as a fundamental misalignment. True equanimity, they taught, is found not in getting what you want, but in learning to want what you get, to wish for events to happen exactly as they do happen. Epictetus offered a startlingly clear instruction for this reorientation. He said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go well." This is the application of the dichotomy of control to the very engine of your motivation. It means harmonizing your personal will with the unfolding will of the universe or nature. He taught his students to desire only what the universe itself desires, since the universe, by its nature, brings about exactly what happens. To desire otherwise is to be in a constant, quiet struggle with reality itself. This is not a call for passivity, but for profound cooperation. You still act, you still pursue your goals with excellence, but you release your clenched attachment to the specific result, which is never fully yours to command. Think of a strong hope you may hold, like aiming for a promotion or wishing for someone to appreciate your efforts. The Stoic would first acknowledge this as a preferred indifferent. The role, the recognition, is preferred. It is natural to seek it, but it is indifferent to your core worth and your capacity for virtue. The practice is to pursue it virtuously, with full effort and integrity, while holding the outcome lightly. Your desire is redirected. Instead of focusing solely on the promotion itself, you cultivate a deeper, more reliable desire to act with courage, wisdom, and justice throughout the process. You want to do your best work, to collaborate fairly, to lead with character if given the opportunity. These are desires entirely within your sphere. The promotion may or may not come, but your commitment to virtuous action remains unshaken, and with it, your peace of mind. Examine one expectation you feel today. Perhaps it is an expectation for a particular plan going smoothly, or for receiving acknowledgement for a difficult task. Now practice softening that grip. Mentally separate the hoped-for outcome from the quality of your own effort. Promise yourself that you will focus all your energy on the part you control, the excellence and integrity of your actions, and consciously make space for the world to deliver the result it will. This small internal shift transforms the experience. You move from a state of anxious demand to one of engaged, peaceful effort. The weight lifts because you are no longer trying to control the uncontrollable. You are simply aligning your hopes with the only thing that can ever truly be yours, your own noble intention and your next right action. A calm mind is not a retreat from the world, but a clearer way to move through it. This is the discipline of action, the vital step that prevents Stoic equanimity from becoming passive indifference. The philosophy insists we are social beings with a duty to contribute, to act with justice and excellence precisely because we can control our choices. We engage fully, but we anchor our peace not in the outcome which lies outside us, but in the quality of the action itself, which is always within our command. Marcus Aurelius, while governing an empire, constantly reminded himself to do the next right thing with humility. He wrote, "In the morning, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present: I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist, and for which I was brought into the world?" His calm was not found in avoiding responsibility, but in fulfilling his role with focused integrity, without the burden of craving a specific result or fearing blame. This creates a profound inner consistency. When you act because it is right, not for reward or recognition, you eliminate a major source of anxiety. Your worth is no longer tied to the fluctuating opinions of others or the unpredictable winds of fortune. You work diligently on a project because excellence is its own reward, a reflection of your character. You offer kindness because it aligns with justice and your connection to others, not because you require gratitude in return. The action is complete the moment it is done well. Its reception belongs to the world. Think of a simple, practical application. You hold the door for a stranger who walks through without acknowledgement. The old pattern might summon a flicker of irritation, a sense that your small good deed was overlooked. The disciplined action sees it differently. You performed a courteous act because it contributes to a more considerate environment. The action was correct in itself, The other person's response, whether a smile or silence, is a separate event outside your sphere. Your peace remains intact because you fulfilled your social duty with a small act of justice. You engaged rightly or consider a larger effort like contributing to a team project at work. You can pour your energy into your part with focus and collaboration because that is the right way to work. You release the obsessive worry about whether the final product will be praised or criticized by management. You control your contribution, not the reception. This perspective is not carelessness, it is the source of sustainable engagement. It allows you to act with greater courage and consistency because you are freed from the fear of falling short or the hunger for approval. So, reflect on this. What is one small, concrete action you can take today purely for the benefit of your immediate community or family? It could be a chore done without complaint, a thoughtful message to a friend, or a patient moment of listening. Perform it with full attention, focusing solely on the act itself as an expression of your capacity for good. Then let it go. Notice the quiet satisfaction that comes not from what it might bring back to you, but simply from knowing you chose to engage with the world rightly. The fabric of our daily frustrations is often woven from the actions of other people. Someone merges quickly in traffic, a colleague overlooks your idea, a family member speaks without thinking. In these moments, we can feel a sharp, personal sense of irritation, as if we are islands being brushed by the waves. The Stoics offered a perspective that fundamentally rewires this experience. They called it Sympatheia, the profound interconnectedness of all rational beings and the cosmos itself. This is not a vague spiritual notion, but a practical lens for viewing everyday friction. Marcus Aurelius, who navigated constant political maneuvering and personal challenges, would steady himself with this thought. He wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth." To act against one another, then, is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful and to turn away. Your calm mind is strengthened when you see others not as separate agents of your annoyance, but as fellow participants in a shared, often flawed, human project. This interconnected view suggests that when someone acts in a less than ideal way, they are often acting from a place of not knowing what is truly good, or from their own internal confusion. Epictetus put it plainly, stating that any person who does a wrong thing is doing it out of a kind of ignorance. They believe, however mistakenly, that their action serves their own good. To be upset with them, Marcus reminds us, is as pointless as being upset with a fig tree for producing figs. It is their nature, shaped by their experiences and their limited understanding, to act as they do. This does not mean you accept poor behavior or fail to set healthy limits. It means you respond from a place of comprehension rather than reactive anger. Your emotional energy is preserved for constructive action, not lost in frustration. Here is how to apply this today. Recall a recent minor frustration caused by another person. Before the story of personal offense solidifies, pause and ask a simple question. What might be true for them? Consider the possibility of unseen pressures they are under, the limits of their own viewpoint, or the simple human tiredness that leads to careless words. This is not about excusing the action, but about understanding its origin. It shifts your internal narrative from "they are trying to hurt me" to "they are acting from their own reality, which is likely as complicated as my own." Marcus Aurelius had a direct exercise for this. He instructed himself, when someone seems to have done you a disservice, consider what good or harm they thought would come of it. Once you see that, you will feel understanding instead of shock or anger. You may still need to address the situation, but you will do so with the calm clarity of someone looking at a puzzle, not the heated reaction of someone feeling personally attacked. For a moment, bring to mind one individual you occasionally find difficult. Without needing to change anything about the relationship, simply hold them in your thoughts and mentally wish them well. Acknowledge silently that they, like you, are seeking a form of happiness, navigating their own challenges, and are part of this vast, interconnected whole. Feel how that small act of mental generosity can loosen the tight knot of personal irritation. It replaces the isolating story of me versus them with the humbling and far more peaceful truth of us. Your equanimity grows not in solitude, but in recognizing your fundamental belonging to the shared human journey, with all its beautiful and frustrating imperfections. The final perspective for a calm mind is also the most profound. You will one day reach the end of your journey. This is not a morbid thought, but the ultimate lens for clarifying what truly deserves your energy and attention. The Stoics practiced Memento Mori, remembering that your time is finite, not to cultivate fear, but to intensify life. This awareness strips away the trivial and illuminates the essential, acting as a gentle but constant guide back to presence and purpose. Seneca wrote passionately about this in his letters, arguing that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. He observed that life is long enough if you know how to use it. The practice of remembering our finite nature transforms time from an abstract resource into the most precious material of your existence. When you hold the natural limits of your own story lightly in mind, daily irritations lose their weight. A perceived slight, a moment of envy, or anxiety over a minor social misstep simply cannot maintain its urgency under that vast sky. Why would you spend your limited hours nurturing a grudge or fretting over an opinion you cannot control? Marcus Aurelius framed this transition as a natural process, part of the same cycle that brings birth and growth. He reminded himself that you could leave life right now, and let that determine what you do and say and think. This is not a threat but an invitation to alignment. It asks, if this were your last year, your last month, or even your last conversation, how would you choose to spend it? The answer almost never involves scrolling mindlessly or clinging to resentment. Here is a simple way to integrate this perspective. The next time you feel yourself tightening around a petty concern, pause and place it against the backdrop of your entire story. Ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Will it matter when looking back from a place of completion? The vast majority of our daily worries shrink to insignificance under that honest gaze. Conversely, this practice magnifies the beauty and importance of the present moment. Knowing your dinner with a loved one is fine, it makes you listen more closely. Understanding your own capacity for effort is limited makes you begin that meaningful project today, not in some vague tomorrow. So reflect on this gentle prompt. If you carried the quiet awareness that your time was truly limited, what one unimportant worry, one source of friction you have been carrying, would you immediately choose to drop? Imagine setting that weight down and feeling the space it creates within you. That space is where a calm mind breathes most easily, focused not on the countless distractions, but on the few things that give a life meaning, connection, and a deep, abiding peace. We are taught from an early age that happiness arrives with the next acquisition, the next milestone, the next level of status. This cultural story of more is a powerful current, pulling us toward a horizon that forever recedes. Stoic contentment, or eudaimonia, offers a radical counterpoint. It is the deep flourishing that arises not from adding things to your life, but from realizing you already possess everything essential for a good life within you right now. True calm is found in this sufficiency, in the quiet recognition that the present moment, just as it is, contains the raw materials for virtue and peace. Seneca, a man of immense wealth, saw the trap clearly. He wrote that it is not the person who has too little, but the person who craves more that is poor. He observed that wealth is the servant of a wise mind and the master of a foolish one. For Seneca, true riches were measured in the freedom of a perspective unshackled from endless wanting. Epictetus, who began with so little in material terms, framed contentment as alignment with nature. He taught that to be satisfied with little is a profound state, and that nothing is enough for the person for whom enough is too little. The richness they point to is not in your bank account, but in the quality of your character and the clarity of your perception. A mind aligned with nature, they argued, sees the world as abundant, not because it gives you everything you want, but because it provides everything you need to practice being fully human. This shift is profoundly practical. It means contentment is a skill you can practice by redirecting your attention from what is missing to what is already present and fully within your command. Let us try a simple exercise in this kind of gratitude. Instead of listing possessions, turn your focus inward. First, consider your capacity for reason. You have the ability to observe your thoughts, to question assumptions, to learn and to choose. This is a monumental asset, the very tool for building a calm mind. Second, acknowledge your freedom of choice in this very moment. Regardless of your circumstances, you retain the power to choose your next thought, your next response, your next action with integrity. This is an unassailable form of wealth. Third, bring to mind a simple, non-material beauty available to you right now. It could be the pattern of light on the wall, the sound of rain, the fact of a single breath drawn easily. These are not small things. They are the fundamental textures of a life, and they cost nothing. So, for a moment, pause the script. Mentally list 3 non-material assets you possess at this very second. Perhaps it is your ability to learn something new today, the basic well-being that allows you to read these words, or the memory of a friend's kindness. Feel the weight of sufficiency in these things. They are not waiting for you in the future. They are here now, and they are entirely sufficient for the work of living well. When you cultivate this view, the frantic chase for more begins to quiet, replaced by the steady, nourishing calm of knowing you already have enough to begin. A sharp email arrives criticizing your work in a way that feels deeply unfair. Your pulse quickens, your jaw tightens, and a wave of heat rises in your chest. This immediate, physical reaction to a perceived injustice is the spark of anger. Seneca, in his powerful work on anger, calls this feeling a temporary madness, a brief insanity. For the Stoics, anger is never an inevitable reflex. It is a choice, a specific kind of judgment we make in that split second between an event and our reaction. We are sent to the impression that a significant wrong has been committed against us and that we must respond. The entire architecture of a calm mind is designed to help you withhold that assent, to see the spark for what it is before it grows. Seneca examines this feeling with remarkable clarity. He writes that anger is a destructive passion that can undermine the very things it seeks to protect. He suggests it is the most turbulent of all the emotions because it begins by setting aside reason. The core Stoic insight is that anger often does more internal difficulty to the person who holds it. It is a form of self-inflicted distress based on a particular assessment of events. We judge that something outside our control, another person's words or actions, has the power to diminish our worth or disrupt our peace. That judgment is where we can pause. Your worth and your peace are internal projects built on character, not on external validation or perfect conditions. The Stoic approach begins the moment you feel that first flush of irritation. Your first and most powerful tool is the pause. Do not speak, do not act, do not hit send. Simply create space. In that space, you engage your reason. Step 1. Question the intent. Is it absolutely certain this person intended the difficulty you perceive? Could this be a misunderstanding, a result of their own stress, or a simple error in communication? As Marcus Aurelius practiced, ask what outcome they thought would follow. Often you will find confusion, not malice. Step 2. Check your sphere of control. You cannot control the content of the email or the other person's opinion. You have absolute control over your interpretation of it and your chosen response. Is your energy best spent on the internal reaction, or on crafting a measured, constructive reply, or perhaps on deciding no reply is needed at all. Step 3. Choose a proportionate response. Justice, one of the cardinal virtues, is your guide here. A just response addresses the matter at hand without being clouded by personal feeling. It seeks to resolve, not to escalate. This might mean asking a clarifying question, stating your perspective calmly, or sometimes simply letting the matter go because it is not worth the currency of your attention. Think back to the last time you felt a genuine flash of irritation. Replay the moment now, but with this approach in mind. What was the initial impression you accepted? That you were not heard, that a mistake was made. Now, with the calm of hindsight, consider a different possible perspective. Could you have seen the event as the other person's limited point of view, not a verdict on you? Could you have viewed it as an opportunity to practice patience, the very character you are building? That shift in perspective is where the feeling loses its fuel and your calm mind regains its footing. The goal is not to become emotionless, but to ensure your emotions are informed by wisdom, not by a story of personal slight that may not even be true. Fear is a messenger, not a master. It arrives with a pounding heart and a mind racing through shadowy possibilities, but the Stoics taught us to listen to its message with reason, not panic. They drew a critical line between rational caution, a wise assessment of a real and present situation, and irrational anxiety, which is a storm of worry about phantoms that may never appear. Your calm mind is not a mind without that feeling. It is a mind that has learned to translate its urgent signal into a clear plan for thoughtful preparation and courageous action. Equanimity here means meeting that initial rush not with avoidance but with a question. What precisely is within my power to address about this? Epictetus, who understood profound personal uncertainty, framed courage in this light. He said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important. The brave person is not one who feels no fright, but one who acts rightly despite its presence. This shifts the entire dynamic. The emotion is acknowledged, but it is not given the authority to dictate your choices. Your reason is. The Stoic response is a two-step process of clear-eyed assessment followed by focused preparation. First, you use your reason to examine the feeling. Is this a genuine concern for my well-being that I can act upon now? Or is it an imagined future scenario, a story my mind is telling about what might happen? If it is a genuine, present matter, you move immediately to the sphere of control. What practical, actionable steps can I take to prepare for or navigate this? Consider the common experience of speaking before a group. The irrational anxiety focuses on phantoms, the mental images of stumbling, of being judged, of silence or laughter. These are stories about an uncertain future and the opinions of others, neither of which you command. The Stoic preparation begins by letting those phantoms go as unproductive fiction. Then you turn to what you absolutely control. You can prepare your content thoroughly. You can practice your delivery repeatedly. You can arrive early to familiarize yourself with the space. You can focus on the value of the message you wish to share, an act of service to your audience. Your energy flows entirely into this domain of diligent, virtuous effort. The actual delivery, the audience's reception, the exact flow of the event, these are preferred indifference. You have done your part with excellence. This process transforms the paralyzing energy of worry into the constructive energy of mastery. So, bring to mind one personal concern that has a quiet hold on you. It might be related to a professional challenge, a difficult conversation, or a personal step you are considering. Now, with the calm of a scientist observing an experiment, break it down. Separate the tangible elements you can prepare for from the intangible outcomes you cannot guarantee. What specific, small actions can you take this week to prepare for the part within your control? And what part, the uncertain reaction or the unknown result, can you practice releasing from your grip, seeing it not as a threat, but simply as the next piece of reality you will meet with your practiced courage. This training begins with a simple, deliberate choice. It is the practice of voluntarily stepping into a mild form of discomfort, not to challenge the body, but to liberate the mind. This is the Stoic exercise of voluntary discomfort, a conscious and temporary reduction of ease to build a deeper kind of strength. Its purpose is not denial for its own sake, but to serve as a preparation for the spirit. By willingly experiencing a small lack, you prove to yourself in a tangible way that your core peace and capability do not depend on perfect external conditions. You strengthen your calm by demonstrating that you can handle more than you think. The Roman teacher Musonius Rufus spoke directly to this. He taught that practicing with less was essential, comparing it to an athlete's training. One must accustom oneself to simple meals, to understand hunger, to drink water, and to be content with basic provisions, he advised. Seneca, despite his resources, would regularly set aside days to live on plain bread, wear his oldest clothes, and rest on a simple bed. He wrote that he did this so that he would not fear what he so often rehearsed. The goal was to prepare himself against the surprise of sudden change, to discover that a good life was possible even with much less. The modern application of this is remarkably accessible. It is not about extreme lack. It is about a small, deliberate pause in your usual comforts to observe your own mind. You might choose to take a brisk walk in weather that is slightly cooler or warmer than you prefer, without complaint, simply to feel your body adapt. You could decide to postpone a meal not for dieting, but to experience hunger as a sensation you can observe without being controlled by it. Perhaps you step back from social media or streaming entertainment for a full day, creating space to notice where your attention naturally wants to wander. In each case, the act itself is simple. The real work happens internally, in the moment your mind pushes back with resistance. That internal voice that says this is unnecessary or I do not want to is the very capacity you are training. By choosing to proceed calmly despite its protest, you build resilience. You learn that discomfort is a signal, not a stop sign. After the exercise, something subtle shifts. When you return to your ordinary comforts, a warm shower, a nourishing meal, a quiet evening, you appreciate them not as entitlements but as genuine gifts. Your sense of having enough grows because you have tested its limits and found them to be far broader than you assumed. Your peace becomes less fragile because you know it can survive a chill, an empty stomach, or a quiet room. So this week, make one small, voluntary agreement with yourself. Choose a single, mild discomfort you can embrace for a short period. It could be drinking only water for a day, turning off background noise while you work, or taking the cooler side of the shower for 1 minute. Observe the initial mental friction, then move through it with intention. Notice not just the momentary challenge, but the quiet confidence that remains when it is done. That confidence is the unshakable foundation of a calm mind being built, one chosen step at a time. A courtroom judge would never issue a final verdict after hearing only the opening statement. They know the full truth requires examining all evidence, listening to context, and allowing time for deliberation. Your mind faces a similar decision countless times each day, acting as both witness and judge to events. The Stoics identified this moment, the instant between something happening and you labeling it, as the birthplace of either peace or turmoil. Epictetus offered the foundational insight, stating that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your feeling about an event is not caused by the event itself, but by your rapid, often unconscious verdict of good or bad. Emotional turbulence is almost always a judgment delivered too soon. Equanimity, then, is the cultivated skill of the judicial pause. It is the deliberate act of withholding that final verdict, creating space for a reasoned assessment before your emotions swear in the jury. This practice directly targets the source of most daily distress, the critical email arrives and your mind instantly declares, "This is an attack, this is terrible." Your nervous system reacts as if this judgment is an undeniable fact. But what if it is only a preliminary hearing? The practice of suspension asks you to treat that initial label as nothing more than a first impression, a piece of evidence, not the final ruling. You consciously decide, "I have received this message. I feel a reaction. My final assessment of what it means and how I will respond is pending." This simple mental shift creates a buffer zone of calm. In that zone, you regain your sovereignty. You are no longer a passive reactor to stimuli, but an active evaluator of information. Apply this to the next piece of surprising news you receive, whether in a text, a conversation, or a work update. The moment you feel that internal lurch, the tightening in your chest or the rush of heat, that is your signal. Instead of following the impulse to immediately categorize the event, practice saying to yourself, "This is an event. My judgment is pending." Then, if possible, give it literal time. Commit to not reacting for 1 hour. Use that hour not to dwell on it, but to step away. Take a walk, focus on a different task, have a glass of water. You are allowing the initial emotional wave to recede so you can see the shoreline of facts more clearly. When you return, you can ask the questions a good judge would ask. What are the actual facts here, separate from my story about them? What possible intentions could be behind this? What of this is within my control to address? The event may still require a response, but now it will be a response chosen from clarity, not one launched from confusion. This week, choose one single interaction where you feel that quick, definitive label arise. It might be a comment from a partner, a change in a plan, or a minor setback. In that moment, experiment with the power of the pause. Mentally place the event on the bench, marked as evidence under review. Notice how the urgent need to have a final opinion right now begins to relax. The peace you seek is found in that spaciousness between what happens and what you decide it means. Your calm mind is not a mind that never forms judgments, but one wise enough to require all the evidence first. Marcus Aurelius wrote of a fortress within that no outside force could ever storm. This is his enduring metaphor for the ultimate Stoic achievement, an inviolable inner citadel. Your mind, he observed in his private writings, is a place of perfect retreat, a sanctuary that remains untouched so long as you do not yourself betray it by opening the gates. External events, no matter how loud or chaotic, are merely projectiles hurled at the outer walls. They clatter against the stone and fall away powerless unless you give the order to lower the drawbridge and welcome them in. That order is your assent, your agreement that what has happened outside must now be allowed to dictate the climate inside. Your calm is not the absence of the siege, but the security of knowing the gates are under your sole command. He wrote that the soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts, and that the ruling faculty remains undisturbed by the events around it, unless it disturbs itself. This is the core of sovereignty. A personal insult, a professional setback, a sudden change of plans. These are all events occurring in the territory outside your walls. They make noise, they demand attention, but they cannot force their way into the central courtyard of your peace without a key, and you hold that key. The feeling of anger or dejection is not caused by the event itself. It is the consequence of you opening the gate, bringing the experience inside, and installing it as a resident in your mind. You gave it a home, and then you wonder why your inner space feels so crowded and turbulent. To apply this is to change your relationship with every disturbance. When you receive harsh criticism, visualize it as a scroll tied with a ribbon delivered by a messenger to the gate of your citadel. You receive it. You may even read it, but you have a choice. Do you bring the messenger inside, seat him at your table, and let his words echo in your hallways for days? Or do you thank him for the delivery, close the gate, and decide within your own quiet counsel what, if any, part of the message serves your growth. The content of the scroll is external. Your deliberation about it is internal and entirely yours. A setback follows the same pattern. The event itself, the missed target or the lost opportunity, is a fact now resting in the past outside your walls. The story you tell about it, that you are not capable or that all is lost, is a narrative you choose to author and believe within your citadel. One leaves you free to try again with wisdom. The other confines you with a fiction, so take a moment to visualize this inner fortress for yourself. See its walls, strong and weathered, built from the principles you have been exploring. See the single, heavy gate that you alone control. Now reflect on the past few days. What was one projectile, one external event that you mistakenly gave entry to? Perhaps it was a stranger's comment you replayed all afternoon, or a piece of worrying news you allowed to dictate your entire mood. You brought it inside, and it began to rearrange the furniture of your mind. The practice now is simply to escort it back out. Acknowledge that it belongs outside the walls, in the realm of things you do not control. Close the gate. Feel the quiet spaciousness that returns when your inner citadel is occupied only by your own chosen judgments, your virtue, and your unassailable calm. The truest test of a calm mind is not a daily frustration, but a profound personal transition. Stoicism is often misunderstood as a philosophy of emotional suppression, yet its approach to sadness reveals a profound and compassionate realism. The Stoics did not expect us to feel nothing when we experience the passing of someone dear, the end of a meaningful chapter, or a significant personal change. They acknowledged the natural, human feeling of sadness as an inevitable response to the absence of something valued. The turbulence they sought to calm was not the first wave of feeling, but the prolonged storm of distress we often create in its wake. This distress arises from a specific judgment we layer onto the initial sadness, the belief that something precious and irreplaceable has been taken from us, that this event should not have happened. Equanimity means fully accepting the impermanent nature of all things, allowing the feeling of absence to move through us, while consciously refusing to fuel it with the story of a permanent, unbearable injustice. The letters of Seneca, written to friends experiencing deep personal trials, beautifully illustrate this distinction. He does not tell his friend to stop missing her son. Instead, he guides her to shift her focus from the absence created by his passing to the enduring presence of his life and character. He encourages a celebration of what was given, rather than an endless protest against the natural law of change. He writes that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and in times of change, our imagination often constructs a prison of permanent ruin from what is, in truth, a painful but natural part of life's journey. The Stoic goal is to feel the sadness without building a home inside it. You can apply this understanding to significant life changes that carry a similar weight, such as the end of a professional role or the closing of a meaningful relationship. The natural feeling is one of sadness, disorientation, perhaps even fear. This is human. The narrative that prolongs the pain, however, sounds like this: my life is ruined now. This should never have happened to me. I have been treated unfairly, or I will never recover. These are judgments, verdicts you deliver about the event. They are stories about permanence and injustice that you attach to the feeling, and they are the source of prolonged distress. The practice is to acknowledge the feeling. I feel deep sadness and uncertainty, while gently questioning the story. Is it true that all is ruined, or is this one chapter ending, making space for an unknown next one? Is this truly an injustice, or is it the unfolding of a complex life path I cannot fully see from here? Reflect for a moment on a past experience of significant change, large or small. Allow yourself to recall the natural, initial feeling. Now look a little closer. What was the specific judgment you added to that feeling in the days or weeks that followed? Was it a belief that this was unbearable, that it defined your future, or that it represented a fundamental unfairness? See if you can separate the clean ache of the event itself from the heavier, self-constructed burden of the story you told about it. That act of separation is not a denial of your experience. It is the first, compassionate step toward allowing it to move, to change, and ultimately, to integrate into the tapestry of a life that continues, shaped by love and memory, not paralyzed by protest. A forest does not hurry, yet it grows. The river does not strive, yet it carves canyons. There is a profound calm in the natural world, a purposeful order that operates without anxiety or complaint. The Stoics called this the logos, the rational principle that orders the cosmos, and they saw aligning with it as the very definition of a good life. For them, living in accordance with nature was not just an abstract idea. It was a practical guide that pointed directly toward simplicity and a deep appreciation for the physical world as a source of quiet wisdom. In our modern lives, complexity is often a source of agitation. We juggle countless inputs, manage digital personas, and navigate systems that feel artificial and demanding. This constant friction pulls us away from the natural rhythms that our minds are, in many ways, still wired to understand. The Stoic teacher Zeno, who began his school in a painted porch open to the elements, spoke of the cosmos as a living, rational being. His successor, Cleans, wrote a beautiful hymn to Zeus praising the law that guides all things through reason. They saw in nature not a random collection of objects, but a model of serene, intelligent functioning. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this in his private moments. He would observe the cycles of growth and renewal, the rising and setting of the sun, and see in them a reminder of his own small part in a vast, beautiful, and orderly whole. He wrote that we should observe how all things are continually being born of change, and teach yourself to see that nature's highest purpose lies in this process of transformation, which is neither good nor bad, but simply is. This perspective is a direct antidote to the mental clutter we accumulate. When you feel overwhelmed by the noise of human affairs, step outside, look at a single tree. It does not worry about its productivity for the day. It simply draws water from the earth, turns sunlight into energy, and sheds its leaves when the season calls for it. Its existence is a lesson in equanimity. Spending intentional time in nature, even for a few minutes, is a way of syncing your internal rhythm with that larger, tranquil order. It is a practical method of aligning with the Stoic logos. The complexity of a buzzing smartphone screen shouts for your fractured attention. The simplicity of a flowing stream asks only for your presence. One agitates, the other settles. This is why simplifying your external life can have such a dramatic effect on your internal state. Clutter, whether physical or digital, represents unmade decisions and unresolved claims on your attention. Each one is a tiny weight. Simplification is the process of consciously removing those weights, not as a form of deprivation, but as a declaration of what truly matters. It creates space for the calm mind to breathe and to notice. Here is a simple practice to begin this alignment. Each day, find one natural phenomenon to observe with full attention for just 2 minutes. It does not require a wilderness trek. It could be the way light passes through a window and illuminates dust motes in the air, the determined growth of a houseplant toward the sun, or the pattern of clouds moving across the sky. Do not analyze it, simply watch it. As you do, remind yourself that you are observing the same fundamental laws that govern the stars and the seasons. You are part of this system, not separate from it. This small act grounds you in reality, pulling you out of the abstract worries of the mind and into the serene, present moment of the physical world. So this month, consider one tangible area of your life you could simplify to reduce that mental clutter. Perhaps it is a digital space, like unsubscribing from promotional emails that you never read. It might be a physical corner, like a drawer you finally organize, or it could be a commitment, one regular obligation that drains more energy than it returns. What single simplification would create the most spaciousness in your mind, making more room for the calm, natural order you are cultivating within? The words can feel like a sudden impact, a sharp comment that seems to diminish you in front of others. In that instant, a wave of heat or a chill of shock floods in, and the moment can linger for hours or even days. This experience, the sting of harsh criticism, touches one of our most sensitive social nerves. The Stoic response begins with a simple, almost technical observation. An insult in its pure physical form is merely vibrating air or marks on a surface. It is simply information. The discomfort we feel is not in the information itself, but in the meaning we instantly and automatically assign to it. We give our agreement to the hidden idea within the words, the notion that this person's low opinion has the authority to define our actual worth. Your calm in this moment is built by learning to withhold that agreement, to see the event not as a verdict on you, but as a revealing window into another person's perspective. Marcus Aurelius offered a view that turns the entire situation inward. He wrote that when another blames you or voices strong criticisms, go to their inner selves, look inside and see what sort of people they are. You will realize there is no need to be strained with anxiety over what particular opinion they should hold about you. He is not suggesting you become indifferent. He is guiding you to see the source. A person who speaks harshly is, in that moment, acting from a place of their own confusion, uncertainty, or poor judgment. They are, as he notes elsewhere, disrupting their own capacity for reason far more than they could ever affect you. The words tell you something about the weather in their mind, not the climate of your character. Epictetus, with his characteristic clarity, framed it as a question of power. He asked, "Who is it that insults you?" The point is that the criticism itself has no power until you grant it power by believing the judgment it carries. He said to remember, it is not the person who speaks sharply who creates the sting, but the view we take of these things as hurtful. Therefore, when someone provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which is provoking you. This is the core of the framework. The other person controls their speech. You alone control the internal space where their words are considered meaningful or meaningless. Here is the practical mental sequence to practice. When the stinging words land, create that critical pause. In that space, engage a three-step internal dialogue. First, state the fact this person has expressed a negative opinion. They believe a certain thing about me. Second, consider the source. This is their impression, born of their experiences, their current state, and their understanding. It is a piece of information about their reality. Third, reaffirm your own standard. My worth is guided by my own actions, my integrity, my courage, and my kindness. It is not determined by their words, which exist outside the sphere of my control. Think back to a specific criticism that stayed with you. Now, revisit the moment using this framework. Separate the event, the sound of the words, from your emotional reaction. See the person who spoke them not as an authority on your value, but as a human being expressing a limited perspective from their own inner world. Does the event itself change? No, but your relationship to it transforms entirely. The weight of it lifts because you have moved it from the category of personal truth to the category of external noise. You honor yourself not by fighting the noise, but by choosing the quiet, unwavering standard by which you alone choose to live. The sun sets, and the quiet of evening offers more than just rest. It provides the perfect conditions for the most practical of all Stoic exercises, the nightly review. This is the daily maintenance of a calm mind, the mental equivalent of sharpening a tool or cleaning a workshop. For the Stoics, this practice was not about dwelling on mistakes, but about systematic learning, ensuring that the small agitations of the day did not accumulate into a permanent inner clutter. Seneca described his own ritual with beautiful clarity. He wrote that sleep should follow upon this self-examination. and that he would never be unsettled with himself when his sleep was peaceful and untroubled. He would ask his own spirit, what unhelpful habit have you addressed today? What challenge have you resisted? In what part are you better? This is the heart of the practice, a calm, almost clinical review of the day's events, not to judge the self, but to understand the patterns of the mind. Think of your day as a series of small experiments in living. The evening review is when you calmly look over the data. The goal is not to assign blame or to bask in pride, but to observe with the detached curiosity of a scientist studying a fascinating process, which in this case is your own life. This systematic reflection accomplishes three vital things. First, it reinforces learning by turning fleeting experiences into lasting wisdom. A moment of patience in a long line becomes a confirmed strength. A flash of unnecessary irritation becomes a noted area for future attention. Second, it fosters profound self-awareness, revealing the subtle links between your judgments and your emotional states. You begin to see that your frustration was not caused by an external report, but by an unspoken expectation for a perfectly smooth journey. Third, and most importantly, it prevents the residue of the day from hardening. By processing events each evening, you clear the mental slate, allowing you to begin the next day with clarity, not carrying forward yesterday's unresolved friction. Here is a simple, sustainable format you can begin tonight, using just 3 questions. First, ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I act with courage, patience, or kindness, however small the act may seem? Perhaps you listened fully to a colleague without interrupting, or you chose a healthy response to a minor setback. Acknowledge this. It builds the foundation of your confidence. Second, and this requires gentle honesty, ask, where did my actions drift from my own principles? Did I speak harshly out of tiredness? Did I delay something important? Did I accept a thought of worry without examining it? Identify the moment without layering on self-criticism. Simply note it as you would note a cloud passing in the sky. Third, ask, based on this, what is one small thing I can improve tomorrow? This turns observation into intention. It might be, I will pause for 3 breaths before responding to an email that triggers me, or I will begin my most important task before checking any messages. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Set aside just 5 minutes in the quiet. Review your day not as a drama you starred in, but as a series of events you navigated. Look for those points where your calm was maintained and those where it was briefly lost. Do this with the calm objectivity of a gardener, noting which plants need water and which are thriving. This is not self-judgment, it is self-stewardship. It is the daily practice of ensuring your inner space is in good repair, ready to greet the dawn with its gates firmly under your command, and its halls filled with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself a little better than you did the day before. A bank account holds numbers, but it cannot hold your peace. This is the Stoic position on wealth and poverty, a view that places both firmly in the category of preferred or dispreferred, but never as good or evil in themselves. Your financial status is an external circumstance, a set of tools and conditions. It is not the foundation upon which a calm mind is built. That foundation remains, as always, your character and your capacity for virtue. The anxious millionaire and the serene individual of modest means reveal that the true differentiator is not the balance sheet, but the internal state. One is chained to their possessions by fear of loss, the other is freed by their understanding of what truly matters. The teacher Musonius Rufus spoke directly to this, challenging the common fear of having little. He taught that having less is not an evil, arguing that a person can live well without abundant means, just as they can live poorly with them. His focus was on the use of resources, not their mere possession. A small amount, used wisely and generously in service of good, holds more true value than a fortune kept in fear or spent on fleeting pleasures that only create more hunger. Seneca, who experienced both great wealth and exile, wrote with remarkable detachment about riches. He saw them as a test. In his letters, he advised treating wealth as a temporary guest, not a permanent resident of the soul. He warned that money often becomes a master, stating that it is the servant of a wise person and the ruler of a fool. The calm mind understands this distinction completely. It sees wealth as a potential instrument for justice, for generosity, for creating ease that allows deeper study or service. It sees having less as a potential training ground for courage, for resilience, for ingenuity, and for discovering the profound sufficiency of simple things. Imagine two people living on the same street. One has considerable financial resources but is perpetually worried about markets, social standing, and protecting what they have. Their mind is a fortress under constant, self-imposed siege. The other has far less but has cultivated contentment, finds joy in daily walks, deep conversations, and their own capacity for useful work. Their mind is an open, peaceful garden. The external difference is obvious. The internal reality, the quality of their equanimity, is inverted. The Stoic goal is to achieve the garden, regardless of which house you happen to occupy. Your tranquility is anchored in how you meet your circumstances, not in the circumstances themselves. So let us pose a reflective question, not as a fear, but as an exercise in discovering your own bedrock. If your material situation changed significantly tomorrow, what virtues would you rely on to maintain your equanimity? Perhaps it would be courage to face the new reality without panic. It might be temperance to find contentment in basic necessities. It could be wisdom to carefully rebuild with clearer priorities, or justice to treat others fairly even when under personal strain. Your answer points directly to the unshakable resources you already possess, the inner wealth that no market shift can ever devalue. This is the profound promise of a calm mind, that it can be rich in any dwelling because its true currency is minted within. A major promotion arrives or a project you led receives public acclaim. The initial rush feels wonderful, a warm validation of your efforts. Yet this moment carries a hidden test, one that can quietly influence your inner balance just as surely as any setback. Success and the praise that follows are external events, as fleeting and unreliable as criticism. An untrained mind can find this more destabilizing than failure, because it invites a subtle shift in identity, a belief that this external validation is now part of who you are. The Stoic response is to meet applause with the same calm detachment as you meet blame, understanding that both are simply different kinds of weather blowing against the walls of your inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the world, constantly warned himself against this very danger. In his private writings, he reminded himself that the applause of the crowds is just the clapping of hands, and the so-called honors of public life are merely trinkets. He wrote, "Fame after life is no better than oblivion. What is the praise worth," he asked, "except perhaps for some practical use?" His goal was not to become cynical about achievement, but to see praise for what it is, a social signal, often based on limited information and subject to change with the next trend or opinion. To internalize it, to believe you are fundamentally better or more worthy because of it, is to build your peace on shifting sand. Equanimity here means accepting recognition politely and graciously, while consciously refusing to let it define you. Your focus remains fixed not on the trophy or the compliment, but on the next right action your character calls for. The work was its own reward. The recognition is a pleasant but incidental addition. This prevents the turbulence of ego, that intoxicating pride that can make you hesitant to take risks, resistant to feedback, or attached to a specific image that must now be defended. Here is a practical way to apply this the next time you receive sincere praise. When someone offers a genuine compliment on your work, receive it with a simple, heartfelt thank you. Do not deflect it awkwardly, but do not absorb it as a core truth about your worth. In your private mind, perform a gentle act of redistribution. Mentally attribute the success to the factors outside your sole control, the element of luck or timing that played a part, the collaboration and support of others, or simply to the fact that you are doing your duty to the best of your ability. This is not false humility. It is an accurate assessment of reality. No great outcome is ever the product of one person alone. By acknowledging this, you keep the event in its proper proportion, as a preferred indifferent that does not alter your fundamental project of living with virtue. Think back to a recent success, large or small. Perhaps it was a completed goal, a piece of positive feedback, or a moment where your contribution was highlighted. Allow yourself to feel the natural satisfaction of a job done well. Now, gently separate that clean feeling of accomplishment from any attendant sense of inflated self-importance. Can you see the success as an event that happened, which you contributed to, without letting it become a new label you must now wear? The accomplishment belongs to the past. Your character and your readiness for the next right action is what remains steady and unchanged in the present. That is the calm mind, undisturbed by either storm or sunshine. Patience is not the absence of action, but its most resilient form. We often mistake it for passivity, a quiet surrender to the slow crawl of a line or the delayed arrival of a desired outcome. In truth, impatience is the frustrated demand for control over time itself, a rebellion against the natural pace of events outside our command. Stoic patience reframes this entirely. It is the calm endurance of external delays, coupled with the persistent, unwavering focus on the actions that remain within our power. This is patience as a discipline of action, a direct expression of courage and perseverance when the world refuses to hurry. Epictetus drew a vital line for his students. He taught, bear and renounce. This concise instruction captures the dual nature of this strength. To bear means to endure the external circumstance with composure, to accept the delay, the obstruction, the slow progress as part of the fabric of reality. To renounce means to willingly let go of the agitated desire for the timeline to conform to your personal preference. It is an active renunciation of the internal struggle against the clock. Marcus Aurelius, watching the relentless flow of the Danube from his camp, saw time as a mighty river. He reflected that one cannot hasten the current or command its pace. One can only choose how to navigate its waters. Your calm in the face of delay is built by turning your attention from the river's speed to the quality of your own rowing. Apply this the next time you are held in a stationary line, whether physical or metaphorical. The external event, the weight, is given. It is outside your sphere. The internal event, your use of that time, is yours to command. The impatient person fumes, mentally rehearsing complaints, radiating frustration that solves nothing. The practitioner of Stoic patience engages the discipline of action. They might choose to observe their surroundings with curiosity, noting details usually missed in haste. They could use the moments for a brief mental review of the day, or to plan a kind action for later. They might simply practice maintaining a calm and observant mind, turning the weight into a training ground for equanimity. The same principle applies to the long wait for a life goal, a career shift, or personal growth. You cannot force the market to change or a skill to mature overnight. You can, with immense patience, dedicate yourself fully to the daily, virtuous actions that build toward it, studying, practicing, connecting, preparing. The goal may lie across the river, but your strength is built with every deliberate stroke you take today. What is one situation in your life currently calling for patience? It might be a slow-moving project, a personal aspiration that feels distant, or a daily commute filled with pauses. Now define it clearly. What specific element of this weight is truly outside your control? The timing, the traffic light, the other person's readiness. Then, with equal clarity, ask what single virtuous action is within your power during this interval. Could it be the action of maintaining a peaceful focus, of sending a thoughtful message to a friend, of listening to an idea that inspires you, or simply of breathing deeply and releasing the tension in your shoulders? This is how patience transforms from a test of your will into an active exercise of your strength, building the calm mind one composed moment at a time. A philosophy that stays in a book is just ink on a page. The calm mind you are building is not a theoretical concept. It is a living, breathing practice that transforms the ordinary moments of your day into a training ground for unshakable peace. The real work happens not in isolated moments of study, but in the constant flow of life itself, in the space between reading about patience and actually standing calmly in a slow-moving line. Equanimity is built through consistent, small applications, not through grand, dramatic gestures. The separation we often create between philosophy time and real life is an artificial barrier that the Stoics sought to dissolve completely. For them, philosophy was not a subject to be discussed, but a way to be lived, a lens through which to view every single interaction and event. Epictetus was famously critical of those who treated philosophy as mere talk. He challenged his students, saying that if your philosophical principles do not help you find ease, then you are using them incorrectly. He observed that just as a carpenter does not come and say, "Listen to me discourse about the art of building," but actually builds a house, so too must the philosophers show their skill through the quality of their actions, not just the beauty of their words. The true test is not in what you know, but in how you navigate a difficult conversation, how you meet an unexpected delay, or how you handle a moment of personal irritation. Your daily commute, your household chores, your routine interactions at work, these are not interruptions to your philosophical life. They are its very substance. To integrate this, choose one single Stoic principle, perhaps the dichotomy of control, and make it your companion for an entire day. Your task is not to achieve perfection, but to practice conscious application. As you move through your morning, consciously apply this lens to 5 minor events. When you spill your coffee, note that the spill itself is outside your control, but your reaction, the cleaning, and your choice to release frustration are entirely within it. When you receive an email that feels demanding, pause and categorize. The sender's request is external. Your composed, prioritized response is internal. When a family member makes a distracting noise while you work, recognize the sound as an external event and your decision to focus patiently as your own sovereign choice. Each of these moments is a repetition, a mental exercise that strengthens the foundation of your calm. The goal is not to eliminate feeling, but to insert a moment of awareness between the event and your habitual reaction. This is where philosophy becomes life. It is the quiet voice that asks, in the middle of a busy supermarket line, what part of this can I actually command? The answer is always the same: your breath, your posture, your thoughts, and your next action. So here is a direct invitation for you, one that turns theory into tangible experience. For the next hour, can you be a philosopher in action, not just in thought? Carry this question with you as you move through the next 60 minutes. With every minor friction, every small surprise, every interaction, ask yourself, what would my calmest, most principled self do here? Then try to take that action, however small. This is the unity of philosophy and life, where every moment becomes an opportunity to build the unshakable mind you are cultivating, one conscious choice at a time. Your quiet pursuit of a calm mind is never a solitary journey. Across 2,000 years, you are part of a vast and ongoing conversation, a community of minds that stretches from the bustling streets of ancient Rome to the quiet rooms of the modern world. When you read the words of Marcus Aurelius, you are not studying a historical artifact. You are receiving a private letter from a man who felt the same weight of responsibility and the same pull of frustration that you do today. His meditations were never meant for publication. They were his nightly dialogue with himself, and by reading them, you become a trusted confidant to his most human struggles. This connection shatters the illusion of isolation. Your challenges are not unique, but shared features of the human experience, and pathways forward have been thoughtfully mapped by generations of travelers. There is a profound reassurance in this timeless fellowship. Opening Seneca's letters feels like sitting with a deeply compassionate friend who has seen it all. A friend who writes, "I know this feeling. Let me offer you a clearer way to see it." He speaks across the centuries with direct warmth, addressing difficult emotions and personal ambition, as if he were responding to a message you sent just last week. This personalizes the philosophy, transforming it from a set of abstract ideas into a living companionship. You are not alone in your effort to build a fortress within. You are walking a well-trodden path, guided by the lanterns of those who walked it before. This sense of community is not just a historical comfort, it is a practical resource you can actively cultivate today. One of the most powerful ways to reinforce your practice is to seek out fellow travelers. Consider joining a local or online reading group or forum. These are not places for academic debate, but for shared experience. You might share about a specific daily challenge and how you applied a core principle, or read how someone else navigated a professional setback with a broader perspective. This exchange does something vital. It turns individual practice into a collective reinforcement. You see these timeless ideas working in varied, real-world contexts, which deepens your own understanding. It reminds you that the goal is not perfection, but persistent, compassionate effort alongside others. So, as you continue this work, hold this question gently. Which Stoic philosopher's voice feels most like a companion to you in your pursuit of calm, and why? Does the weary, determined honesty of Marcus Aurelius resonate with the burdens you carry? Does the firm, encouraging clarity of Epictetus speak to your need for structure? Or does the empathetic, worldly wisdom of Seneca feel like the friend you wish you had close at hand? That chosen voice is your anchor in a long tradition, a direct line to a calm that has been patiently waiting for you, not for centuries, but for the moment you decided to listen. You will have days where the calm you have built feels like a distant memory. This is not a sign of failure, but a confirmation that you are engaged in the real work. Equanimity is not a final destination you arrive at and then inhabit forever. It is an ongoing practice, a lifelong discipline of attention and effort, where the setbacks are not interruptions of the training, they are the training itself. The goal is not to become a person who never feels the heat of irritation or the chill of worry. The goal is to become the person who recognizes those sensations as signals, not commands, and who returns again and again to the principles that rebuild peace. This is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens not through a single heroic effort, but through consistent, humble repetitions. Seneca, in his letters, spoke directly to this understanding of progress. He wrote that we should not be surprised that we cannot reach perfection in a single bound. Instead, he advised, if you are moving in the right direction, be content. He emphasized the value of daily effort, noting that even if you have not fully achieved a calm mind, the very act of striving for it makes you better than someone who has given up and surrendered to every passing feeling. Your commitment to the practice is the victory, not the attainment of some mythical, unflappable state. This reframes every lapse in composure. When you lose your cool, when a wave of anxiety breaks over you, or when you find yourself replaying a criticism hours later, do not see it as a collapse of your progress. See it as the most valuable kind of feedback. That moment is a spotlight, illuminating exactly which judgment you unconsciously assented to. It shows you where a hidden expectation was residing, or where you momentarily handed the keys of your inner citadel to an external event. The frustration itself becomes your teacher. After the feeling passes, you can calmly analyze it. What was the initial impression I accepted as true? Was it that this delay is a personal injustice, or that this person's opinion defines my worth? That analysis is your preparation for the next repetition. You are not failing, you are gathering data to train more effectively tomorrow. So, take a gentle look back at your own journey so far. Can you forgive yourself for the times you have lost your patience, for the days when worry felt overwhelming, for the moments you reacted instead of responding? Those were not failures of character. They were the necessary repetitions in the gym of your mind, the moments that showed you where your strength needed to be built. Today is not a test you must pass perfectly. It is simply the next fresh opportunity to practice, to choose awareness over reaction one more time, and in doing so, to weave another thread of resilience into the fabric of your being. The soul becomes calm by ordering itself according to its own nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words as a quiet promise to himself, and across the centuries they arrive as a promise to you. This is the essence of the journey we have shared, a map for building an unshakable calm from the inside out, not by changing the world, but by mastering your judgments within it. Stoic equanimity is not a gift given by peaceful circumstances. It is a skill forged through daily practice. It is built by learning to separate what is yours to command from what is not, by embracing your path with courage, and by guiding your desires and actions to align with your deepest principles. You have explored a complete toolkit, from the cosmic perspective that puts daily worries in a new light to the nightly review that clears the mental slate, from the thoughtful preparation for challenges to the patient endurance of delays. Each exercise is a brick in the stronghold of your mind, a deliberate choice to respond with reason rather than react with passing turbulence. Now, the philosophy must leave the page and enter your life. This week, choose just one practice from our exploration to treat as a personal experiment. Perhaps it is the evening review, spending 5 quiet minutes to learn from the day just past. Maybe it is applying the understanding of control to your first moment of frustration tomorrow, asking simply, what part of this can I actually influence? Or it could be a single act of choosing simplicity, like a walk in cooler weather, to remind yourself that your peace is more resilient than you think. Approach it not as a test but as a curious inquiry. What do you discover when you try it? As you begin, remember you are not walking this path alone. In the comments below, I would be deeply interested to know which single principle or idea from our time together resonated most with you. Was it the view from above, the idea of embracing your journey, or the power of pausing before judgment? Sharing your reflection helps build a community of practice where we can all learn from each other's experiences. If you found this guided exploration valuable and wish to continue deepening your understanding of this way of living, consider subscribing for more journeys like this one. Your calm mind is the greatest project you will ever undertake, and it begins always with your very next choice.